Our next guest is a true rags to riches story and a hero of mine at that. He grew up with a single mom and spent part of his childhood living above Delhi next to Skid Row in downtown LA. It was there that he discovered his love for cooking, which led him to become one of the youngest and most successful entrepreneurs in the restaurant space. He was named on Forbes 30 Under 30, and as a chef, he is signed to Jay-Z's management company, Roc Nation. And if you ever wondered what a music video and the Food Network would look like if they had a baby, you should check out our next guest. Drum roll, spring roll, egg roll, cinnamon roll, sushi roll, any kind of roll you want. Jeremy Fall.
That was the most puns with roll I've ever heard.
Thank you so much for being on the
me.
show. You really are like one of the most mind-blowing, jaw-dropping people I've ever met.
You're too kind.
You've blown my own mind and changed the way I viewed my entire life.
You gotta swap the vodka for some water.
Yeah.
It's getting to your head.
Okay, so one thing that I think is really beautiful about your story is that most people have this misconception that successful people come from opportunity. And when you were a kid, you didn't have very many opportunities, I imagine, handed to you. If they were living right next to Skid Row and, you know, having to hear the sirens and...
Yeah, I mean, I think back then I didn't really think of it like that. I mean, in downtown at this point, you know, this was in 2007. So, I mean, people that aren't from LA probably wouldn't really know what that references to, but it's completely different than what it is now.
Okay.
So when you say those things, it does sound like kind of romanticized and like, you know, exaggerated, but it's actually not. That's actually like, I was like sirens. Like, and I was like, oh, I guess that is pretty accurate.
So Skid Row wasn't the most dangerous street in LA at the time?
Well, I mean, you know, that whole area, even surrounding it, is just like, it's still not there. There, you know, there's a lot of homelessness, unfortunately, and like a lot of drug issues. And I actually think that the last year it's gotten worse again. But yeah, so I mean, is it the most dangerous street in the world? That I don't know. That's probably like a big statement. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's like...
Sounds fantastic on the bio.
It sounds great. It sounds great. Adjacent. It's not, you know what I mean? It's so adjacent. It was like, there wasn't much opportunity there, if that's what your point was.
Okay. But my curiosity is, when you were a kid, what did you think you would end up being when you grew up? Did you think that you had opportunity? How did you create opportunity?
Well, you know, growing up, my mom, so we lived above the cafe that my mother ran, like in the back area. And so, you know, I had a passion for food in terms of I just liked eating and I just loved food. So I always wanted to do things that would make me money so that I could invest in restaurants. That was the plan for the long term.
As a 10-year-old?
Well, that's actually a point. I was like 11, but yes. These ideas matured probably when I was like 13, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, no,
at the ripe old age.
Old, yeah.
Jeez Louise.
And so when that was happening, I was just like, you know, I was very much in the mindset of you got to school, and like I really fucking hated school, but you got to go to school and then get a degree and then get a job and make, you know, that was still...
Which is amazing that you actually had those aspirations.
Oh, no, those were mine.
Okay.
Those were my family's.
Okay.
I thought that was the path because that had to be the path.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, the shift I think happened when I was like probably 16, 17, 18. Like I'd say there's a quick transition there up until the time I went to college. I ended up dropping out. But then I was like...
What did you study? How to be...
No, I dropped out. So like
Okay.
I didn't really have a chance. But
He dropped out before he started.
No, I did start.
He did 1 week.
I did start. I didn't know what to major in, and that was a sign that I didn't belong there.
Okay.
And I never liked the status quo. I was always questioning the credibility of the people that were like grading me. I was like, what makes you the expert?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I was going through like all these like very existential questions.
Yeah.
And to me, it made sense that like that just wasn't for me. It wasn't. I had nothing against it. It just wasn't for me. So I decided to just keep working, and then didn't really have a plan.
Yeah.
You know, I was very much like, my mom was like, you gotta get your shit together. You know, I was living at home. I was like probably, I don't know, 23 by this point, 22, still at home. I think I didn't move until I was like 24.
Wow.
I was like, you gotta, you know,
That's so inspiring.
You have like, no, you have to get your shit together and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'll get my shit together. And then that was it. And then that year after, I got a job working. I had worked in hospitality, so I got a job in working with a bar group. And then I just opened my own bar, like I think 6 months after that.
Okay. I do want to get to that.
Yeah.
You just dropped so much information. I have to unpack some of
Yeah.
it. So one thing that I think is clear about your vibe right off the bat is that you question thought and opinion. And I love the fact that you questioned the authority of like what makes your opinion more valid than mine. And I think that's something that's really impacted my life is the shift in perspective of realizing that a lot of people are trying to do the same thing in the same way as everybody else and go up a very specific ladder and just try to get to the top. But I feel like what's unique about your story is you see the ladder and then you just go somewhere else.
It wasn't always that way, but yeah, that's how it is now. I mean, at first I was like trying to recreate other people's success, and then I was like, this isn't going to work. I didn't feel authentic and whatnot. And this, again, this is the abridged version because this took years to figure out. But I was just, and it was probably until recently that I really figured out like how to be more authentic and do things that actually made sense, from that I wanted to do, not that I felt like I had to do, right? So that I think that takes time. It takes a bunch of fucking up to really figure that out.
So how did you go from living at home to 6 months starting your own restaurant? Come on.
Bar was the first
bar.
one. So I was working for like prominent bar group doing marketing stuff, and then my friends owned this bar, successful. They had a space in the attic that wasn't used, but it technically was under the same liquor license, right?
Wow.
So I was like, can I just do something with this? And, I convinced them to kind of put some money in to redo it and launch it. So it was kind of like a makeshift situation, but it got my foot in the door to be able to like actually launch something that I could get my name on and then build from that. I got very lucky that was extremely successful. I think it was because it was a little bit lawless and so just authentic.
Yeah.
Like, It was so like not manufactured. I think people like really gravitate towards that.
Wow.
So once we did that, it really did well. And then I just used that to build upon that over time, not financially, reputationally.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's
like your resume. You built.
That's the biggest thing I think people don't realize is that when they're investing in projects, it's a much smarter investment to invest, I would say, in like social currency and yourself and your influence, because that actually is something that has more longevity and will actually last versus like, money, you can have $100,000 in your account today and disappear tomorrow. But if you build that in terms of like worth of like your name, that's something that you can consistently monetize forever, right? And if you keep building up upon that, that's kind of my philosophy.
So powerful. I actually remember our first conversation. You talked about social currency.
Oh, I did?
And
that sounds about right.
This is fascinating to me because you do talk about social currency and how that's been a huge part of your story. And I'm amazed because I feel like right here and right now, you're explaining how you went from 0 to 1. And I love the idea of finding an opportunity, leveraging the fact that you know how to work really hard, you know how to have a vision, you can lead that and then kind of build your own rock on the rock climbing wall and step from there and have it be.
Yeah. And I think it's adaptation, right? It's like, a lot of people are like, I don't understand. Like, I work really hard and I have a good idea. I'm like, okay, we all do. If we didn't work hard, like, you're not even part of the conversation if you're not willing to work hard. Like, that's an absurd thing to have a crutch on. And a good idea, I mean, like, that's subjective. Like, you could argue a lot of successful things weren't the best ideas, but they were done in, there's a little bit of luck. I think there's the ability to adapt and be flexible with things and adapt to your surroundings. And like, look, we're in an ever-changing generation. If you're not willing to evolve, you're going to die. Like, that's just how it is. Like, all these people that talk shit about the TikTokers and the Gen Z, I'm like, good luck in 5 years. Like, I was the young authority for years where people would come to me and be like, how do I speak to your generation? I'm not that person anymore. I was that person 5 years ago, that everyone wanted to tap into millennials. It was over and over again. But now I need to talk to the other generation and I need to look for that person for me. And if I'm too arrogant and think that that's going to be me forever, like, not going to go anywhere. You have to constantly evolve.
Yeah. Okay. So was it a seamless transition to go from marketing to convincing them to let you start a restaurant? Or how did you utilize those first friendships and get people to take the first bets on you as you started progressing through your career?
Well, I think I've always, I think there's some might call insanity or naivete, and I think it is to a certain extent, but I've never seen no as an option in terms of like getting something done for work. So like, if I want to open something and it doesn't work out here, okay, cool. I'll just do the next one until it does, because there is, there are enough formulas out there, enough combinations that like you will crack the code eventually. There's a way to do everything. You just have to figure it out, and it's like, so I guess I would have never stopped until I did. Even if it was still today, I'd still be trying, you know what I mean? So I think when you have that mentality, it's like, if you keep trying to put the puzzle pieces together, eventually they will fit. Like, they will eventually. There's no really reason why they wouldn't, Right.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's one thing that I'm also learning in my life is there's this romantic idea of you just knock on the door 10 times, 20 times, and eventually it'll open. And I'm realizing that is the biggest waste of time that I've mistakenly done in my own life. And I realize if the person isn't willing to open the door, invite you in for dinner, anytime I mention
these puns are going to be the bane of my existence.
That was not intentional.
Yeah.
But they're not the right people to partner with on your vision.
Sure.
And the world is so infinite and there's so many other doors.
Especially now, and the rules are changing. It's like this person may not be an option today, but they might be tomorrow. And or this door might. There's a lot of things that I've seen come full circle, like ideas I've had when I was like even in my early 20s, late teens, that are literally coming back now.
Wow.
It's like weird, where I'm like,
cool.
oh, now it makes sense to do this. It didn't until today, and it's like,
But you had that forward vision.
I think it wasn't necessarily, it was a vision, but it was like, it just was an idea that was the wrong time. You know what I mean? It wasn't that I was like, I'm going to do something 30 or like whatever it is. It's just, it's eventually, I think things do come full circle.
I love that. That's what this show is for me. So one thing I love about knowledge, and this is actually a huge reason why I'm doing the show, is I feel like knowledge is freedom to reevaluate and find a more seamless path. And you told me something that has deeply changed my perspective. This is crazy. This is why I said my jaw has been dropped since I met you. Yeah.
Where was I in all these times?
Having coffee. No. So there's this notion about the starving artist and how difficult it is to become a singer and get your music heard. And I felt that, like I felt that struggle and that resistance. And you said, I just don't understand how all these artists around the world feel like such victims, because imagine how easy it is to distribute your music to the masses and how challenging it is to distribute your food to the masses, because as a chef, you can only reach a very limited amount of people. And yet somehow you've built all this social currency, you've built all this success, you've actually reached the masses. And WTF, like how did you do that? What's the secret sauce?
It was never it was never about the food. That was where I was going. It was never about the food. Okay. It was always about the context around the food, the conversations that came from it. I looked at food as something that was universal, a medium that everyone consumes. And I was like, there's a way to translate this into something more than just the food itself. You're limited by the actual medium, right, but not the impact. So how do you harness that impact and turn it into a brand that speaks to people? So it's like, if I go in tomorrow and I'm like, hey, Nike or hey, whatever, I want to do a shoe. I'm a fashion designer. They're gonna be like, okay, cool. The line's right there. There's 5,000 of you and like, you're never gonna get to the front. I'm like, hey, so then I'm like, hey, Nike, like I do food. What do you think of integrating your brand to food? And they're like, oh, okay, well, this is a different line of people. He's the only one in this line because we've never thought this way. So then I get the opportunity to educate the person on how to do it. And then since it's something that hasn't really been done or they don't know how to do or it's been done at a very mild level, I get to dictate the terms.
Wow.
I don't mean financial deal terms. I mean, like, I get to dictate, like, the landscape. And that's what I've been doing is just, like, I found a niche that was a big niche that was untapped, and now I'm able to kind of write the rules there. The negative side of that, contrary to what you do, you have to educate everyone about it. Like, you already have something paved where it's like you drop a single, people understand me. Like, oh, I want to drop a single, I want to drop it out. People already know how that works. If I want to do something outside the box, I have to explain to them what it is, why they should do it. Like, there's a lot. But once I crack the code,
it's novel.
No competition. Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's no one else in line.
Yeah. In business, they call that a blue market. Like, there aren't so many sharks
What
in the...
research have you been doing?
No, this is my life. I feel like you can't survive without, like, binging audiobooks every day.
For sure.
But the idea of a blue market versus a red market is like the analogy of an ocean and how many sharks are trying to feed. So that's freaking fascinating. Great secret sauce you've got going on there.
Secret sauce, yeah.
I'm curious, as a chef who doesn't rap.
I don't even call myself a chef, you know that, right?
I know. But I feel like that's
I know you know.
I feel like that's like the aristocracy being like, I'm a... Like Brad Pitt being like, I'm a normal person too.
That is completely different.
Not quite.
No.
Agree to disagree.
Well, that's not saying I'm a normal person. I'm actually saying...
He's like, I'm not normal.
Well, I think that chefs, like, chefs either go to school or they start in the kitchen young and they grow and so I never did that. I've never worked in kitchens.
Okay.
I built them. I owned restaurants. I come up with food, but like, that's a debate in itself. Okay. It depends who you ask though. If you ask like the average person, they would say that. If you ask actual chefs, they'd be like, no fucking way,
Yeah. Well, good thing the average person is your consumer base. So
exactly.
There you
go.
But I'm so curious, as a food person who doesn't rap, how did you get the meeting with Rock Nation?
Says I don't rap. What?
How the heck did you convince Rock Nation to sign you?
I really don't. Like, honestly, I had a conversation with...
Were you introduced?
At the time? Yeah. I had a close relationship that was over there, and we just were like talking, and it made sense. It's like, I think in creative mediums, it doesn't really, and that's what I was saying earlier, it's like, it doesn't have to be segregated, right? by industry. I think it's all one. You know what I mean? Like whether I was like doing clothes or graphic design or food, whatever it is, it's like as long as the ideas are there. And I think like I actually think musicians and people in the food space have similar things. Like I think like restaurants are like albums. I think chefs or whatever have the same types of personalities. Like it's very similar. There's a joke that people say that like chefs and musicians are the same, except chefs are more punctual. I beg to differ.
What is the riskiest choice you've had to make, and what difference did it make in your life?
I honestly don't know what the riskiest thing I mean, look, I think to a certain extent it's probably the same you've done is like trying to pursue your dream. Like turning creativity into dollars is like probably the hardest thing in the world other than like brain surgery.
But it took you 6 months.
That's a big statement. No, okay, no. That was for me to get, I did not turn it into money, that's for sure. Financial success was not from the get-go. That was like a long time. Long time.
Okay.
I did tell a story recently that was like about how I was like on a billboard in headlines all around the world. My voice was dubbed in like Japanese like news. It was crazy shit. And I was living on an air mattress that didn't fit on. Like,
wow.
And couldn't pay rent. Like that was for like the longest time. I would say up until even like recently. Like the air mattress evolved years ago, but
I can one up you on that. I didn't have a billboard or any of those cool accolades, but when I first moved to LA, I had saved up some money, and my parents said, you're not allowed to buy yourself furniture until you can prove that you can survive as a singer. So for 2 years, I slept on an air mat, and I had a cat who would try to go under the covers. Oh my God. Her nails would accidentally poke holes in the air mattress. So every night, it was completely duct taped. And every night, I would end up from like an inflated air mattress to the floor. And nothing in Times Square, no billboards.
You bring up a good point, actually, about the air mattress. Mine was deflated every morning. I thought it was because I was overweight. Maybe there was a cat. I'm allergic to cats. But I feel like maybe, like, I never understood why that shit doesn't stay inflated.
Yeah, well, mine was duct taped all around.
Like, I was, like, on the wooden floor. By the morning, like, literally couldn't move.
Yeah.
It was, like, just pain.
Maybe the secret to success is being willing to sleep on an air mat. How did you end up creating Beats for Breakfast and having Miguel be on that show?
Other way around. So Miguel was making beats in his kitchen.
Okay.
And he was like, it's starting in his kitchen. This is a cool idea to do like show that also has food and Beats for Breakfast. Then we met at my breakfast for dinner restaurant.
Wow.
We both found out that we're not actual people that eat breakfast. We're breakfast for dinner people.
I love that.
And then the conversation started, and then the show got built up from there. But it was really like a natural inception, just like a very authentic conversation of like I was making beats in my kitchen and just like,
So do you believe in destiny or coincidence? What is that?
In that scenario?
In life, but yes, in that scenario.
That's a really great question. And I don't know if I even know the answer to that. Like, I think I'm not like a destiny person.
Okay.
Per se. I think there's a mix. I don't think it's black or white. I think there's luck for sure. Timing, I think, is like...
But what is timing? Is that destiny or coincidence?
If you look at the biggest TikTokers today, right? Do you think they'd be as big if we hadn't gone through the pandemic and there wasn't an overlap in TikTok blowing up during the pandemic? I don't think so. Mm-hmm. I think the pandemic accelerated us by 5 years or so, but maybe in 5 years from now, it wouldn't have had the same impact. Like we had to be in the mindset to want to consume these things for them to actually work, right? For those things to work, they have to be consumed, right? There has to be a demand there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if we would have paused our lives and focused on TikTok to even learn about a new social platform when Instagram was so big in a time where we had so many other distractions. Like we had no other option. But to consume these things. That's why the digital world exploded. That's why like NFTs are big now. Cryptocurrency, like you have like the randomest kids that never thought about the stock market investing. Like Robinhood blew up, like the GameStop, like meme stocks, everything. It's just like, this was all, I think those are all results of the situation, right? So I wouldn't say the pandemic was luck, but I would say that it's timing for sure.
An opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. I think it just depends on the situation. I'm not a destiny person, but I think it depends on the situation. Sometimes it's coincidence, sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's timing.
Okay. So this wasn't even on my list, but you keep on mentioning TikTok, and the D'Amelios started a YouTube channel, and they don't have very many videos up yet. It's probably like 6, 7, 8. And good young Jeremy Fall.
Oh, okay.
It's not just on the episode, but like the episode is about you and your sauces. How did that come about?
Their team, their manager's a dear friend of mine.
Oh.
And it kind of happened naturally. This whole thing was like the night before. Just like I think he like called me like 9 p.m. and he's like, "Hey, like love to do a cooking thing," and I was like, "Yeah," and I just showed up and we cooked.
So this next segment of the show is called truth or dare. Truth or dare. Ooh.
Truth.
You're writing your first book and you talk about
Sorry.
anxiety disorder is one hell of a drug, turning creative sparks into forest fires. Do you ever miss your anxiety?
No, because I still have it. I'm like highly medicated for it, so it's
Okay.
still there.
Okay.
Wait, what? Do you ever miss your anxiety? Okay.
I'm actually low-key extremely anxious about this.
I love that this, you didn't give me a heads up about this. I would have prepared questions before, so this is really going to be on the fly.
To be honest, I didn't tell him anything about the show because I knew he would say no.
That's a fair point.
Okay, so truth or dare?
Truth.
You say that your fear of being nothing was what motivated you every day to keep fighting, keep growing, keep smashing the ceiling of your earnings potential over and over. Do you still feel like nothing?
No. I have the marble rain shower.
Okay.
How would I?
That's a very real answer. Okay.
If you had to pick to be Amish or Jehovah's Witness, what would it be?
From what I know about both, I would easily say Jehovah's Witness because you can live in the real world.
Do you like birthdays?
Yeah.
You can't celebrate them.
Yeah, but
you can't go into people's homes that aren't Jehovah's Witnesses. Did you know that?
Okay. I'd say Amish.
Okay. You can't distribute your music.
That's the way the cookie crumbles.
You can't distribute your music as an Amish person. No electricity. You have to literally use your banjo.
I would be a Jehovah's Witness. I would rather release my music.
It's the passion that counts. I can really tell that you're really sure of yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
What truth or dare? Truth.
Okay. What's the most embarrassing thing you've done
in my life?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. You want me to do the hot sauce? That's actually pretty good.
I know. What a shame. I'll have to get something spicier next time. Okay.
0 calories.
Now we have some rapid fire questions. Moody or happy?
Happy.
Give me a sentence to describe your week.
Meetings, dinner, recording my podcast, recording your podcast, dinner,
and some breakfast while you're at it.
Yeah, dinner.
3 wishes.
End starvation, world peace, and creativity with no boundaries.
I like that. Who's the coolest person you've ever cooked for?
I'm cooking for you right now, right?
That was the best answer you've given all morning.
You're welcome.
What's the first thing that pops into mind when you think of Miguel?
Friend?
What's your biggest food fail?
That's a good question. Look, there are a million ideas that you throw out there that just don't work. I tried to make this like Hot Pocket cream cheese once. It was disgusting. It was like a ham and cheese cream cheese, which sounds delicious, right? Couldn't figure it out. I don't know why. It sounds very simple. I can't do simple things.
If you could cook a meal for any person, dead or alive, who would it be?
The first person to ever be on the planet.
Adam?
We don't know.
What's next for you, Jeremy Fall?
I've been doing a lot of mental health work. It's integrating all my projects, and not in a lot of times it's not in an obvious way. Sometimes it's about like figuring out a project that helps people think outside the box and reposition their thinking. But through that, I'm kind of trying to teach people how to cope with their mental health and reposition it. So I think that's probably the next thing.
I love that. Where can people find you? At Jeremy Fall on Instagram.
There you go.
This show is called Under the Covers. What's one thing that's under your covers that no one knows about you?
I don't like beets, like the vegetable.
I love beets. I'm going to have beets tonight. In fact, it's prepped and ready in my kitchen.
Okay. Well, that's great. I'm
just so you know.
I wasn't planning on having dinner with you, so that's good.
I love it. I am so freaking honored to know you and have you on the show.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jeremy Fall, for being
welcome.
Jeremy Fall. And you have deeply impacted my life and my perspective on opportunity, which is a blessing. Hi, my name is Layla Perry, and you're watching Under the Covers, my show about the risks taken, the mountains climbed, and the victories behind some of the biggest game changers shaping culture and entertainment today. Jeremy Fall!
Yes, chef.
Max Lugavere. Mari Llewellyn.
It's me!
Glenn Coco. Drum roll. Graham Bunn.
Scott Hansen.
Greatest intro ever.
Give it a year, I bet they'll call you a genius.